Before the algorithm, there was a street, and on that street, someone knew your name. Every town had its rhythm, a butcher who remembered your order, a bookstore owner who saved things for you. Commerce was human. It happened face to face, in real spaces, with real consequences. Then, in 1994, a man named Jeff Bezos packed books into boxes from his garage in Bellevue, Washington. He wasn't selling books. He was testing a theory that convenience would always win. And for a while, the local stores didn't notice. The internet was just a curiosity. But something was already shifting beneath the surface, invisible, structural, and permanent. By 2000, millions of people had discovered they could buy without leaving home, without speaking to anyone. The local toy store didn't have a server farm. The local bookstore couldn't offer one-click checkout. They were competing against something that never slept, never needed rent, and never had a bad day. Between 2000 and 2010, over 100,000 small retail businesses in the United States closed permanently. Each closure was a statistic, but each statistic was someone's life work. A family that had run a shoe store for 40 years, gone in 18 months. Not because the shoes were bad, because the algorithm had better shoes, cheaper, delivered tomorrow. This is the part nobody talks about. The internet didn't just change shopping, it changed who gets paid. When you buy from a local store, the money circulates. It pays a neighbor's salary. It funds a local school. When you buy from a global platform, the money leaves. It doesn't come back. Studies show that for every dollar spent at a local business, 68 cents stays in the community. For every dollar spent on a major e-commerce platform, less than 5 cents stays local, sometimes none. But here is where the story gets more complicated, because the internet also gave tools to the small. A candle maker in rural Portugal reaching a customer in Tokyo. A woodworker in Ohio selling to Stockholm. The internet gave the small producer a global storefront for the first time in history. But there was a toll booth at the entrance, and the toll never stopped rising. Platform fees, advertising costs, algorithm changes that buried you overnight without explanation. The platform could change the rules on a Tuesday and destroy 5 years of work by Wednesday morning. Small sellers discovered they didn't own their customers. The platform did. The data, the reviews, the search rankings, all of it belonged to the house. You were a tenant. And yet, people kept buying online because it was fast, because it was cheaper, because it was easy. Convenience had become an addiction, and like all addictions, it had a hidden cost. The hidden cost was the street. The hidden cost was the relationship. The hidden cost was the town center slowly dying. By 2020, 1 in 5 shopping malls in America was projected to close within 5 years. Not a slow fade, a structural collapse disguised as consumer preference. And then the pandemic arrived, and it accelerated everything by a decade in 12 months. People who had never bought groceries online were suddenly doing it every week, every day. And many of the local stores that survived 2008 and 2015 and 2019 did not survive 2020. But in the wreckage, something unexpected began to emerge. A generation that had grown up online began craving something that screens couldn't give them. Texture, smell, conversation, the feeling of being known by the person across the counter. Farmers markets began growing. Independent bookstores started opening in cities that had lost them. The vinyl record industry, declared dead in 1990, outsold CDs for the first time in decades. People were voting with their feet, quietly, imperfectly, but deliberately. The question had shifted from why would I leave the house to what am I losing by staying home? Economists began calling it the experience economy, but it was older than that. It was just human. Because human beings were never designed to be consumers, they were designed to be participants. And participation requires presence. Presence requires place, and place requires investment.
Some cities began redirecting tax incentives away from large chains toward independent businesses. Portland, Oregon, Bologna, Italy, Medellin, Colombia. Different cities making the same quiet bet. The bet was this: if you make it easier for small businesses to survive, the whole city survives with them. But here is the rupture in the story that most people never reach. The internet itself is not the enemy. It was always a tool. What we built with the tool, that was the choice. A local restaurant using an app to reach the neighborhood isn't a contradiction, it's adaptation. A collective of artisans building their own cooperative online marketplace, not feeding the algorithm, but replacing it. These are not utopian experiments. They are already happening in dozens of countries right now. The real question is not whether local commerce can survive the internet. It already has in places. The question is whether the systems around it, political, cultural, economic, will allow it to flourish. Because the internet made the world a market, but it never promised to make it a community. Community was always something you had to choose, and choosing it requires returning to the street, to the store, to the person. Every transaction is a vote, not for a product, for the kind of world you want to live in. The internet connected the world, but it was always up to us to decide what kind of world we wanted connected.